Elvis lives in Las Vegas. In fact, he was born there, at the wildlife habitat on the grounds of the Flamingo Hotel. When he popped out of his shell, Sandra, the penguin keeper, gently picked him up. "Well, look at you," she said. "You have a pompadour like Elvis Presley. I'll name you Elvis. It's the perfect name for you." And it was. The feathers on Elvis's head swept upward and curled over like a cresting wave into a pompadour. It was the most unusual hairstyle for a penguin. Sandra set him down next to the penguin pool. All of the penguins gathered around to welcome Elvis to their flock, twittering in amazement over his pompadour. Three flamingos elbowed their way through the flock to see what was causing so much excitement. The first flamingo said, "Will you look at that hair? It's awful." "How unfortunate," the second flamingo said. "Yes," agreed the third, "quite a tragedy, if you ask me." Just then a plump little penguin walked up to Elvis. She looked him over from bill to toes, turned toward the three flamingos, and declared, "I think it's quite nice. Leave him alone." "How rude," the first flamingo said, and they pointed their noses in the air and stalked to the other side of the pool. "Hi, I'm Lucy. I like your pompadour." Elvis smiled at her. "Thank you. Who is Elvis Presley?" "Oh, well, he's just a hunk of burning love," swooned Petunia. Mango giggled. "He was the most famous rock star of all time." "We know every word to all of his songs," added Diver. "He was the king of rock and roll," Bella declared. "Look," Lucy handed him a brochure. "An Elvis Impersonators Convention is being held at our hotel. People come from everywhere to dress and sing like him." "I'm named after someone famous? Wow, I want to be famous too." "You'll have to learn all of Elvis's songs, and you'll have to curl your lip. That's what Elvis did, and all of the impersonators do it too." Elvis curled his upper bill. "Like this?" "Yes, that's right. And you'll have to have smoldering eyes." Petunia said that Elvis had smoldering eyes, added Bella. "What are smoldering eyes?" asked Elvis. "I don't know, but you'll have to have them," advised Lucy. "It's probably important." "Then I better get busy," said the little penguin. "I've got a lot to learn." The next day, some of the Elvis impersonators gathered beside the penguin pool. Elvis and Lucy swam close to watch them. The impersonators were dressed in costumes of every color. Their costumes were studded with shiny rhinestones that caught the sunlight and dazzling sparkles. One of the impersonators stood up. He was dressed all in white. The man began speaking. Thank you very much," he said. "I'd like to sing a little song for you." He turned his back and gave a great big shrug of his shoulders. Suddenly he spun back around and began to bellow. "Well, it's a 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready now, go cat go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoes. You can do anything but lay off of my blue suede shoes." The audience went wild. The penguins started jitterbugging and the impersonators began to boogie. Everyone was having a great time. "That's it, Lucy," Elvis yelled over the noise. "I need to get a pair of blue suede shoes, then I'll be just like Elvis." "I know where a pair is. Come on," Lucy said. Lucy and Elvis dashed back to the penguin pool, where the maintenance man stored his supplies. Maintenance man secretly wants to be an Elvis impersonator. He keeps his blue suede shoes hidden back here. They searched through his cabinets. "Here they are," cried Lucy. "Quickly, put 'em on." Elvis sat down. He pushed and wiggled his toes. He tried stretching the shoes with his beak, but they wouldn't fit over his flippers. "Oh, what am I going to do? I can't get them on." Lucy glanced around maintenance man's supplies. Look, a can of blue paint. Lucy and Elvis began prying open the lid. Lucy climbed onto the rocks and loudly announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll." Waddling onto the rocks, Elvis made a grand entrance and struck a dramatic pose. No one moved. No one made a sound. Suddenly, the flamingos burst into a raucous laughter. "He painted his feet blue," screeched one of them. The flamingos doubled over with laughter. Some were laughing so hard they stumbled over their long legs, lost their balance, and fell into the water. Sandra, the penguin keeper, came to the habitat. She gasped when she saw Elvis's blue feet. She shook her head and said, "Oh, Elvis, what have you gone and done now, silly little penguin?" Then she carried him away to clean off the paint. The Elvis impersonators returned the next day. Once again, the man in the white costume stood up, turned his back to the audience, shrugged his shoulders, spun around quickly, and sang out, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine." The singer was wiggling his hips so quickly that a great big shiny rhinestone flew off of his costume, bounced along the pavement, and landed in the penguin pool. Elvis dove in to retrieve it. He held the rhinestone tightly to his heart, closed his eyes, and said, "I'll treasure this forever." "Hey, Lucy, what's a hound dog?" I don't know. Maybe it's like one of those yappy puppies the guests bring to the hotel. You know, the fuzzy ones that just sit there in their lap. "Do you think impersonators have them on stage when they perform?" Elvis asked. "Maybe," answered Lucy. "We better find out what they are. It might be like having smoldering eyes." So Elvis and Lucy sneaked over to the wrong side of the habitat, where a gang of penguins lived that had been transferred there from the Bronx Zoo. The gang was smoking sardines and playing a rowdy game of roll the clamshells when Elvis and Lucy approached. "Excuse me, could I speak?" Elvis stuttered. They all turned and stared coldly at Elvis. The leader of the gang stepped forward and said, "What's with yous and the hairdos?" The gang began snickering and elbowing each other in the ribs. "Hey, that's not nice," said Lucy. "His name is Elvis, and he has a pompadour, and he's going to be a famous Elvis impersonator one day, so there." The leader was a squint-eyed wise guy named Mario. "What you twos pipsqueaks doing on this side of the habitat? Looking to make a little action?" "Well, mumbled the frightened Elvis. Lucy spoke up again. "We want to talk to a penguin named Mario." "That would be—" Mario looked around with his squinty eyes to make sure no one was listening. "Me. What would you two pipsqueaks need to talk to me for?" Lucy leaned in close and spoke with a hushed voice. "We heard you were connected. We need a hound dog. Can you get us one?" "Yeah, I got a few friends in all the right pockets. I'd be able to come up with a hound dog." Mario squinted his eyes even squintier. "But what's in it for me and my boys?" Elvis opened his hand and displayed the brilliant rhinestone on his paw. He hated to use his only treasure as payment for Mario's services, but he desperately wanted to be famous. "All right, Pipsqueak, you got's a deal, but if you get caught by the authorities with a hound dog in the habitat, on your grandfather's lives, you don't know me, capiche?" Mario and his gang returned a few hours later. "The word on the street is there ain't no hound dogs in Vegas, Squeak." Mario looked around, adjusted the sardine dangling from his beak, and leaned closer to Elvis. "But I'm an honest businessman, so I took some liberties. True my connections. I got used the next best thing." Mario snapped his fingers and one of his boys stepped forward holding a bag. He held it out towards Mario, but it slipped from his grasp and fell onto the rocks. the bag began to wiggle furiously, and then plopped out a baby bulldog. The puppy jumped to its feet. It bared its teeth and let out a low, menacing growl. It lunged into the middle of the Mario brothers and chased them over a rock. Then it began snapping its sharp, pointy teeth at the heels of the big, chubby flamingo, and the bird squawked loudly and ran for its life. Penguins and flamingos scattered in every direction. Lazy flamingos that hadn't flown in years suddenly remembered how to fly, and penguins honked and brayed as they tried to avoid the snapping jaws of the baby bulldog. "He might not be a hound dog," cried Elvis, "but that puppy's no friend of mine." "You got that right, Pipsqueak," answered Mario just before they dove into the safety of the pool. A determined Elvis woke up in the morning with a bright idea. "Lucy, I'm going to break out of the habitat and sneak onto the stage. I'll sing and dance and curl my lip just like Elvis, and everyone will see that I'm the greatest Elvis impersonator of all." "But Elvis, how will you get out?" "Just you wait and see," Elvis boasted. Elvis watched and waited all day, and finally in the late afternoon he saw his chance. Maintenance man propped the gate open while he was going in and out with some large pieces of equipment. The instant maintenance man turned his back, Elvis dashed toward the gate. One of the flamingos that had been watching Elvis with suspicion all day, the moment he spied Elvis running for the gate, he began to squawk loudly to get the maintenance man's attention. Elvis was just a few waddles out of the gate when maintenance man grabbed him by his tail feathers. Elvis brayed and brayed and brayed with fear and indignation. Slam! Solitary confinement. The big house. The cage ratted out by a flamingo. Jailed for an attempted escape. Elvis felt crushed by disappointment. "I almost made it. I was so close," he said. He sank down onto the floor of the cage and sighed sadly. "Oh, who am I kidding? I'm never going to be famous." In his lonely cell, Elvis began to wail the saddest song he could think of. "Well, since my baby left me, I found a new place to dwell. It's down at the end of Lonely Street at Heartbreak Hotel." 2 hours later, the kind-hearted Sandra came and bailed him out. "Elvis, hurry! The showgirls are visiting the pool," Lucy called excitedly. "No, go away," sulked Elvis. "But you don't want to miss them. They're fantastic." "Go on without me, Lucy. I'll see them another time." "Oh, no, you don't, Elvis. You're coming with me." Ignoring his complaints, Lucy dragged Elvis to the penguin pool. Elvis stopped grumbling the moment he saw them. The showgirls were the prettiest creatures he had ever seen. They were dressed in colorful costumes laden with sequins and rhinestones and festooned with enormous fans of long feathered plumes. "Oh," said Elvis breathlessly, "they're gorgeous. What are they, Lucy?" "They're dancers and singers. They perform on stage, and they really love us penguins and visit us often." They were very beautiful, gliding gracefully beside the pool, waving and calling sweetly to each of the penguins. Before leaving, a lovely dancer dressed all in pink leaned over and gently patted Elvis on the head. Elvis gave her his most gracious smile and made a low, sweeping bow. "Aren't you a charmer?" the pink showgirl exclaimed. "And you have an enormous, adorable pompadour. I bet you'd make a great Elvis impersonator." She waved goodbye, and as she left, one of her pink plumes fell off of her costume. Elvis leaped in the air and caught it. He stood with the plume in his beak, a little heart pounding with excitement as he watched the pink showgirl walk away. That was all the encouragement Elvis needed. "Lucy, I'm going to perform on stage with the showgirls." "But Elvis, how are you going to get on stage?" "I've got an idea, but I'm going to need Mario and his boys, so come on." Waddling quickly after him, Lucy called, "Wait for me, Elvis." Shortly after lunch, Mario said to the boys, "All right, boys, we're here to take care of some long overdue business with the maintenance man. Remember how he cut into our action by throwing away our clamshells when we first got here? It's time we teaches that monkey wrench a lesson. Capiche?" All the boys nodded in agreement. Mario continued, "Now, here's what I want yous to do.